Can I ask you a question, Tom?
Sure, Timmy.
Is it true that you've never kissed a boy? Is there a boy out there that wants to come up
Monday's Kill Tony was the same as any show inside of an arena, characterized by a rabid crowd, solid panelists, legendary cameos, and a terrible bucket. Was Kill Tony's second show on Netflix and its third appearance at Madison Square Garden a good show? We will dive in and answer that question coming up. Kill Tony's showing at Madison Square Garden featured a terrible bucket. However, the bucket might not have reached its full potential as only 5 names got pulled from it. That has to be the least amount of bucket pulls in arena show history, and it has to be one of the least amount of bucket pulls in the show's history. Throughout the episode, Tony discussed how comedians who signed up waited hours in what was a hot day in New York since 3 p.m. Probably north of 300 signups came to the show, and only 5 of them got time on stage. If you're a comedian who attended the show, you have to feel like you got hosed at least a little bit, especially when you consider the 5 comedians who did get to take the stage, 3 of which got booed before their sets even came to an end. I understand that these arena shows are something of a spectacle, and you want to give these casual audience members more names that they're familiar with on a platform like Netflix, but if you're increasing your show total to 4 a year instead of 3 on Netflix, with this new 3-year, 12-show Netflix deal, I feel like getting the audience more accustomed to what they typically see on a Monday night on YouTube would be the better route, especially if you're looking to do more shows on Netflix or to even get a full-time deal with the streaming service. The entire last 90 minutes or so were either golden tickets, regulars, or legends, and that's not to say that these people didn't have killer sets. In fact, most of them were on their A game. It's just not what the show is about, and it never really has been. It's been about Tony and the panel roasting open micers and watching them struggle. And an arena is a tough place to witness this or sit through, which is another difficult hoop that these arena shows have to jump through in order to make it feel on par or on brand with what the mainline show actually is. One thing you'll also surely notice if you've been watching the show for a long time is the edits. Typically between each bucket pull, you'll hear some sort of banter between Tony and the guests, or just general pauses between the comedians. In this episode, there is none of that. It immediately cuts from one person to the next, making it feel almost like a different show entirely. It's great that Kill Tony in the show has this budget, but these small things like transitions between sets and Tony giving intros and the little quips between the sets is a staple of the show. Other small things that happen in the edit were things like Netflix cutting out Tony promoting Jim Norton's special and where to find it. All of these raw little things that make Kill Tony what it is were pretty much absent during the Netflix episode. The MSG crowd was another group at these Kill Tony arena shows that wasn't afraid to share its displeasure, even at the most minuscule response. The crowd was booing mothers, hometowns, job occupations, and when comedians were just 20 seconds into their sets. I love a good bomb as much as the next guy, and trust me, if you're in that camp, this episode has plenty of bad comedy to scratch that itch, but the crowd booing and immediately taking them off track eliminates them from the moment. It makes for a difficult viewing experience. I'm sure that it's fun to do live and in the moment, but on a watch, it's actually something that ruins things almost completely. Towards the end of the show, it was clear that they were running out of time and had a segment planned out that they had to squeeze in, which was another 4-comedian competition similar to the one that they did at the Nashville Arena show. This competition, the last time, drew, I would say, a bit of a controversy, as it was for a spot on this particular show, and whoever came in last place wouldn't be on the show again for 6 months. Tony must have not seen the reaction that this got online and thought that it was a hit or a great idea, because he decided to do it again, except this time the stakes were lower and weren't even revealed until all 4 comedians did their sets. After Danny Martinelli won this contest, it was revealed that he earned a spot on the New Year's Eve show. He won the competition against Jack Shaw, David Jolly, and Serena Teal. It was cool to see 2 new faces in this challenge, but Jolly and Shaw were 2 people who competed in the last 4-person challenge. This had to feel even shittier for Jack Jack Shaw, who won this challenge last time to get a spot on this show, and instead of getting to perform a minute, he had to do a quick minute, get rushed to the side of the stage, and wait for 3 other people to do a minute in another competition. I understand that Shaw technically did get a spot on the show with this competition, but it seemed like some fine print bullshit. We didn't need as many legend sets as we got. One of those spots could have went to Jack Shaw. And to be honest, Tony, you've been giving out golden tickets like they're candy lately, and we really didn't get to see any of the newer golden ticket winners other than Timmy No Brakes, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We have seen the same people in all of these arena shows back to back to back to back. We haven't had any sort of variety. There are more comedians in your bag that you can showcase at these events, but you continue to go to the same well of the David Lucas of the world, the David Jollies, the Aaron Belials. Somebody like Colin Sledge, I think, would have also done a great job and is somebody that you haven't given that platform to yet. Maybe you think that your older golden ticket winners are the more safer option, but everybody that I have just listed, I think would have been more funny than Aaron Belial. I think would have been more funny than David Lucas. Would have been probably more funny than Hans Kim this go around. And Jack Shaw, at the very least, deserved a standalone minute. This episode did have a lot of flaws, as become par for the course when the #1 live podcast in the world visits an arena, but something Tony and company have been consistent with has been looking for great guests to be on the panel to sort of weather the storm. This episode was no different with Mark Normand and Matt Rife. Mark Normand has been a steady hand that Tony has turned to multiple times for big time shows, whether it be in an arena or back at the show's home turf. He's always good for quick one-line zingers or a memorable quote throughout the episode. Matt Rife is a newcomer to Tony's list of favorite guests to bring on for a big moment. I'm not sure if Tony is bringing him on just off of name value or if he's a guy that he actually trusts and wants to be on the show. But either way, Rife has shown that he has the ability to thrive in a Kill Tony environment. He's been on the show 3 times, and each time he's had a pretty successful showing. His last time on the show was during an arena show in Nashville alongside Adam Ray as Tony Caruso, and he wasn't the most active that time around. This time though, he let off the brakes a little bit, with him and Mark both having a fun time roasting the comedians throughout the night. Say what you will about Rife's comedy, if it's your thing or not, he's definitely proved that he's someone that can be a reliable and steady guest on Kill Tony. The first person to do a minute on the show was none other than David Lucas, who did not have a good set and got owned every time he tried to roast someone on the panel, continuing to show that his roast god moniker is certainly not earned. It's crazy that there's going to be lots of new Kill Tony viewers, and the person that you decided to start the show to introduce them to your product was one of your worst regulars in David Lucas. Martin Phillips followed Lucas with a pretty solid set, and is someone who has regularly started shows in the past. He would have been a much safer and better option to start the show. Putting in David to open things was like putting in your 3rd string quarterback in the Super Bowl during the opening drive when your starter is perfectly healthy. Why would you do that? For as bad as I've talked about the Legends bucket and all the regulars and golden ticket winners on the show, that's not to say some people didn't go out and have excellent performances, just none of the bucket pulls did. Jim Norton, Joe DeRosa, and Dave Attell all gave legitimately laugh-out-loud performances, while regulars like Ari Matty, Martin Phillips, and Fiona Cawley all delivered minutes that have become the norm for them. Perhaps the most fun part of the show was the final pull from the Legends bucket, which belonged to Timmy No Brakes. This was an absolutely legendary setup. The way that he always incorporates something from the show in his act is hilarious. Asking Tony if he's ever kissed a boy and seeing if anyone in the crowd would like to do it was killer. I also love how he commands the stage, leads the band, and uses jokes, running gags, improv, and props all as part of his act. He is a jack of all trades and a master of every single one of them. All the problems that typically face a Kill Tony arena show were once again present in the latest Madison Square Garden edition of Kill Tony. A raucous crowd with little care for the people on stage, and the people on stage who have little care for the show in terms of the bucket pulls. Tony tried to relegate this with more legends and more regulars on the episode, but it made the show feel more like a comedy showcase, more so than an open mic. Sure, it's nice to see your favorite comedians on the show, and it's cool to see them do a set, but can we limit that number a little bit next time so we can can get more bucket pools onto the stage? Also, can we get rid of the 4 comedians competing for a certain thing at each one of these things? If you want to do something like that, have a tournament throughout the week at the Mothership leading up to this show. Have some sort of 8 comedian, 4 comedian tournament where these comedians are going head to head each week leading up to the arena show where there is a final head-to-head battle, and have that be the matchup where you bring out the crowd meter and then they win some sort of prize, whether that be regularship or a spot on the next arena show, whatever it is that you want to give away. Tony likes wrestling, storytelling, and all of that. I think that would be much more interesting than a random thrown together 4 comedians compete at once battle royale. Overall, this was probably one of the weirdest Kill Tony shows in a while. All of the comedians that we know and have become accustomed to killed, and Matt and Mark were killers on the panel, but it just felt like a different show from what we were used to seeing. And that was my Kill Tony at Madison Square Garden review. What did you guys think of the show? I have to know. Leave it in the comment section down below. Again, don't forget to check all the links down below. You can like me on Facebook at Troop Talks, follow me on Twitter at Troop Talks, or follow me on Instagram at Trey Vaughn Pixley. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.